So World War III is quite literally about to begin. Canadian politics is changing forever. I'm starting to grow some gray hairs, and the Oilers might actually win the cup. There's a lot to take a look at today. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage you all to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It does really help grow the channel. In terms of the Oilers winning the Tariff Cup, there's not really any news other than the fact that I feel a little sorry for the Dallas Stars, so I'm playing a violin. Anyways, yeah, that's stupid. I could probably rehearse that a little bit better. There's a lot to take a look at today, though. We do have Trump, who's got not so good things to say about Putin, but that's pretty much the only international news other than the fact that King Charles is here visiting Canada, Mark Carney, his globalist elite buddy. And then you have, speaking of Carney, the fact that Parliament is supposed to resume today, but it didn't. Well, it kind of did, but then they didn't do question period. And then speaking of question period, Mark Carney's canceling it. Not fully, but sort of. There's a piece that's hidden somewhere in this video that's about that. I think it's towards the end of the video, but yeah, it's crazy, folks. It's absolutely crazy. The news in Canada. I've actually said this before, and be careful what you wish for, because it does come true, not in the ways that you want it to. I've been saying for a while that I can't wait for the day where Canadian politics becomes boring again, because it's just so stressful, which is crazy because this entire YouTube channel and all my other YouTube channels are all politically based, which means that if it becomes boring, views would kind of come down and there would be just less traction towards mine and other people's channels alike. And now it's happening. It's really happening in terms of Parliament, at least, because Mark Carney's new change of Parliament, specifically question period, is probably going to shock you, or it may not, but more on that later. Without further ado, let's get right into the video, starting with the fact that I scheduled this live stream for this morning. And it turns out that it's not May 26th that question period resumes because they canceled it. It's going to be May 27th on Tuesday. So if you are going to watch question period, head over to my other YouTube channel, House of Canada, and just click on the notify me button so you can actually be notified of this live stream, because we are going to be streaming that and it's going to be a lot of fun. Now let's get into Donald Trump, who has this to say about, well, President Putin.
I'm not happy with what Putin's doing. He's killing a lot of people, and I don't know what the hell happened to Putin. I've known him a long time, always gotten along with him, but he's sending rockets into cities and killing people, and I don't like it at all, okay? We're in the middle of talking, and he's shooting rockets into Kiev and other cities. I don't like it at all.
President, what do you want to do about that?
I'm surprised. I'm very surprised. We'll see what we're going to do. What am I going to tell you? You're the fake news, aren't you? You're totally fake. All right, any other questions? I don't like what Putin is doing, not even a little bit. He's killing people. And something happened to this guy, and I don't like it.
Yeah, there you go. Those are some pretty big talking words right there. It seems like what is supposed to happen is Trump is supposed to be able to basically strong arm or peacefully tell Putin, hey, man, you got to stop this war right now. We'll get into trade with America and Russia. We'll both make money, but you got to stop the war immediately. And it seems like that's not happening. So we're going to have to wait and see how this does play out. But the fact that Trump is this angry with Russia in the middle of what's supposed to be, you know, peace talks and hostage negotiations and exchanges, it's not good. Now, does this mean World War III is on the horizon? It doesn't mean that it's not on the horizon, if that makes any sense. It means we're probably getting closer and closer to it. Based off this single conversation, no. But the behavior from Russia and the fact that America is just, I don't want to say losing control, but it feels like they kind of are around the world. Yeah, that might put us on the brink of World War III. But in case World War III doesn't happen and we all survive, let's talk about Canadian politics. Specifically, this story right here, which puts a big smile, like a shit-eating grin on my face. The NDP will not be granted official party status. Oh my God, let's get some W's down in the comment section. This makes me so friggin' happy. You remember on the live stream on the election night, I just took a big old swirl of vodka straight from the bottle when Jagmeet gave his little resignation speech. Oh man, that made me so happy. Government House Leader Steve McKinnon says the NDP will not be granted official party status because the law says a party needs to have at least 12 seats to be recognized. The NDP was reduced to just 7 seats in last month's election. Oh my goodness, that makes me so happy. I could almost cry. That's how happy it makes me. And speaking of crying, some people feel a little bit more emotional about this than others. Mark Carney says, grateful to have an audience with His Majesty King Charles III this afternoon. Tomorrow, His Majesty will deliver the speech from the throne nearly 70 years after Canada's sovereign first opened Parliament. It is a historic honor that matches the weight of our times. And of course, you have King Charles right here and Mr. Burns next to him. Kind of weird. I mean, should we be this enthusiastic about the kingship and the queen and all that stuff? Some people a little bit more than others. I personally call it ignorance, call it lack of knowledge, call it disrespect. I just don't care that much. I don't care that much about the kings and the queens and the royal this and the royal that. I would kind of prefer it if Canada just like distanced themselves from that and became our own sovereign nation instead of, this that we're calling ourselves a sovereign nation, but we're still doing traditions that aren't Canadian and they're British. Just my 2 cents. I'd love to know, though, down in the comments, if you guys are still into this or if you're not like me. Next up, we've got Justin Trudeau being a misogynistic. Mark Carney being a misogynist. Trudeau was very well known for elbowing women's on Parliament floor and being dismissive of women in general. And now Mark Carney is filling those shoes, not only as prime minister, but also as misogynistic prime minister. Kind of crazy. So you can see Melanie Joly goes up to Mark Carney and says, "Hey, boss," and he shoos her away. I love that so much. I love that so much for us. For some reason, these liberals think that they're all like buddies now, right? And they think that stuff is going to go back to the way it was, how it once was, how, they were all schmoozing at question period and it was just a big mockery. Well, that's not the case. That's not the case. And the breaking news, one of the breaking news pieces of this video is this next piece right here, how Mark Carney will not continue with the question period tradition that Justin Trudeau began. So we're going to read the article in a second, but I'm going to explain it. Monday was kind of boring for question periods. Tuesday was a little bit more exciting. Thursdays was getting closer to the weekend. Fridays, nobody from the A team showed up. It was all the B team. And that's not to be disrespectful. That's just to simplify it for everybody that's watching this. Now, I left out Wednesdays. What happened on Wednesdays? Well, not the Addams family. What actually took place was Party Leader Day. Every single party leader, so Pierre Poilievre, Yves-François Poutine, Jagmeet Singh, Justin Trudeau, and the hippy dippy chick who has had 2 seats, now she's got 1, Elizabeth May. That was supposed to be every single Wednesday. Pierre would get up, Trudeau would rebuttal, they're the leader of the opposition, the prime minister, opposition, prime minister, opposition, prime minister, Quebec, prime minister, Quebec, prime minister, NDP, and then back to the Conservatives. And it was only for the leaders or whoever was representing the leader on that day if the leader wouldn't show up. That was not a real thing. I mean, it was made by Justin Trudeau, but it wasn't a real piece of how our government works. And as Carney's first act, he just cuts that out saying, you know what? I don't want to have anything to do with this. So that brings me back to the first point that I made at the start of the video, that I once upon a time made a wish with all my heart to fly with dragons in the land of heart, that we would go back to a day where Parliament was just kind of boring and the news in Canada was boring. And now we're here. We are here. So the days of seeing Pierre Poilievre or, an opposition leader like Andrew Scheer, whoever's filling the shoes on that day, stand up to Trudeau, or in this case, Mark Carney, every Wednesday, it's kaput. It's gone. So what does this mean for Mark Carney? Does he now have an obligation to show up to the House of Commons? Sort of. Now, the rules for Parliament are this. I mean, there's gray areas, but they are supposed to show up when they are not doing other duties, when they're not out talking to other countries or doing paperwork or whatever it is. They could be in Ottawa doing other things and they just don't have the time to show up. My theory, which is being proven true right now, the fact that he's already eliminated the Wednesday party leader day, is that Mark Carney will not be participating in a lot of question periods. Maybe one a week, maybe that, but I think you're going to see all of the main people from the Liberals from the last season, like Chrystia Freeland, Dominic LeBlanc, Marco Mendicino, whoever, François-Philippe Champagne, the Chihuahua, right? Steve McKinnon, or even, the guy who crawled up the CN Tower, right? The climate activist. You're going to start to see those people take questions from conservatives. And Pierre's not going to be in the House for quite some time because his by-election probably won't happen until sometime in maybe even August. So question period is not going to be what it once was, which is insane to me because the spectacle that it kind of became was what brought so much attention to politics. Yeah, people want to pay attention to what's going on in our country, but question period itself was so attractive to so many people because it was just, wow, our leaders are debating, and it gained so much momentum. My analytics from House of Canada and other people alike's YouTube channels prove that. I know it sounds crazy to base, an entire country's interest on a certain topic based off of YouTube channels, but it's not really that far-fetched. Analytics are analytics and interest is interest. And so for those that are thinking that you're going to see crazy zingers from Pierre Poilievre v. Mark Carney, it's probably not going to happen as much as we think it is or as much as we hope it is, at least not as much as I hope. So what does question period in the near future look like? Nothing like what we've experienced. That's all we know right now. But let's take a look at the article to see what they have to say. Prime Minister Mark Carney will take part in his first question period on Wednesday, but will not carry on a tradition started by his predecessor. Former PM Justin Trudeau made it his practice to answer all questions in the House of Commons on Wednesday, a gesture meant to approve accountability within the chamber. A source in the Prime Minister's office confirms Carney will not carry on the same practice. Trudeau said in 2017 that he thought it was important for all MPs to be able to ask questions of the Prime Minister, not just party leaders. There was some debate around the time among other parties about whether the move would allow Trudeau to dodge questions on the other days of the week. Wednesday, we'll see the first question period of the spring legislative session following the election of House Speaker. Oh, yeah. So now I forgot to mention that part. We don't have Greg Fergus anymore. So we've gone through the Nazi inviting House Speaker, Anthony Rota. We've gone through the corrupt stop muting the mic, Greg Fergus. And now we're going through some Quebecer guy. It's just a rotating door of corruption, it seems. So question period and House and the Parliament is going to be different, which is not me deterring you from tuning in. I'm still going to be live streaming it for as long as I possibly can. I genuinely have an interest in what they are saying. So if you want to watch question period and you think that it's just a little boring watching it on CPAC or Parlez-vous, feel free to click the link down below in the description or the pinned comment below and go to House of Canada and stay tuned for those live streams, because as a community with the comment section, with commentary, with interaction, it's going to be very, very fun. At least we're going to try to make it very fun. But now let's get back to some other Canadian news, such as the fact that in Newfoundland, a guy who to beat a guy to buy, MP who won narrow Newfoundland recount explains why his province is shifting blue. For those who don't know, the East Coast is quite liberal. Yeah, there's a lot of conservatives out there, but just how the map goes, it's quite liberal.
We come with the best showing in Newfoundland and Labrador for the Conservative Party in over 20 years. And that's because we have had a leader that has made policies for Newfoundland and Labrador's oil and gas, policies for Newfoundland and Labrador's mining industries, policies for Newfoundland's natural resources, which is one of the backbones to our economies. And that is the reason why I decided to join this Conservative Party at such a time as this. And I want to thank you guys for all the people part of that. And we are very looking forward to bringing these policies with our next Prime Minister, Pierre Poilievre, in the next election, hopefully in 2026. We come with the
hopefully in 2026. I mean, I personally don't think that we're going to see another federal election that early. I think we're going to have to go the entire distance to 4 years or 5 years from now, but we can try to be hopeful about an early election. Now we're going to take a look at Andrew Scheer, who addressed Parliament and gave some awesome zingers, talking about how the Liberals and Mark Carney are just copying the Conservatives. But go ahead, copy us. It's doing good for the country. Here we go.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. To indulge myself to take this opportunity to thank the voters of Regina Capel and indeed our spouses. I'd like to thank my wife Jill for the sacrifice that she and my family make, as do all our spouses and significant others. You have just taken charge of an office that is almost as old as Parliament itself. It emerged in the Middle Ages when the Commons needed a spokesman to air its grievances to the King. A task that probably wouldn't stand up to the safe workplace guidelines that exist today. And as we heard from our Dean, until the 17th century, the Speaker's loyalty was to the Crown rather than to MPs, and they were often blamed if they delivered bad news to the monarch. 7 speakers were beheaded between 1394 and 1535, and many more were imprisoned. Managing monarchs was a delicate undertaking. One speaker, John Wenlock, during the War of the Roses, when no one could be sure who would end up as king, he tried to hedge his bets by fighting for both the York family and the Lancastrians. It didn't work out too well for him, though. He died at the Battle of Tewkesbury. But of course, he wasn't the last politician to try to be on both sides of a contentious issue. And I dare say we may find some Liberal MPs voting for things that they were very recently voting against. Gradually, the Speaker's role became one of representing Parliament rather than the monarch, and it wasn't until the Victorian era that impartiality of the Speaker became the norm. Now, it might no longer be a requirement to stand up to kings and queens, but you may find yourself having to stand up to other offices of authority, and if such a moment presents itself, we trust you will stand with those speakers who came before you, who defended this institution on behalf of the people. As I look back over the last few parliaments, we did have some trying times. We witnessed injuries from flying elbows, F-bombs dropped, and a few appearances of one member in a state of undress. I did hear that CPAC was considering putting a warning on the daily broadcast, may contain violence, coarse language, and nudity, but so far they haven't had to do that. The speakership itself has been tested, with, unfortunately, some speakers caught in the middle of scandals themselves. I have heard it said that it's all gone downhill since the last time a Conservative was elected Speaker, but I couldn't possibly comment on that. In all seriousness, though, Mr. Speaker, you are not the Commissioner of Parliament, you are the servant of the House, and that is an important dynamic. You are held accountable by the members, and each of us are accountable to our voters. Debates should be passionate. They should be lively. The lives of Canadians are changed by the decisions we make, and so it is normal that members get enthusiastic and fiery. When the stakes are so high, often the best thing you can do is allow the players to play a little bit. This is where the government is held to account. They have an enormous amount of power, and we, parliamentarians, must provide ruthless scrutiny on every dollar taken out of their pockets, every infringement on their liberties, and every single decision this government makes. course, every parliament has its own unique challenges and messy moments, but as Winston Churchill said, democracy is the worst form of government, except for all the others that have been tried.
Again, in case you're wondering why Pierre Poilievre isn't the front runner in the House, is because he lost his seat. And until there's a by-election that takes place, he can still remain as the party leader. He just can't go into the chamber. He can't be a part of question period. He doesn't have access there, which is crazy. Like, the guards will literally stop him from entering because he's not an MP. Even though he's the party leader, it's just rules are rules. But now let's take a look. We're going to end the video by taking a look at Mark Carney's first address in the House of Commons as Prime Minister.
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
C'est pas correct, hein? Okay. Merci beaucoup. Merci tout le monde.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
As I rise in this House for the first time, I hope you will permit me to thank my constituents in Nepean for the great honor of being a member of this government. And I'd like to thank Canadians, Mr. Speaker, for the trust that they have put in this government, but in all members of this great House. Hear, hear. Mr. Speaker, I have much to learn from the members of this great House. I will make mistakes. I have no doubt that you will call them out for good reason. Because this House has rules, it has traditions, and it's on those traditions that our Athenian democracy is founded. Yes, we are Athens. They are Rome.
That, ladies and gentlemen, concludes the video. I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. Do you think that this is still going to be entertaining to watch? Do you think it's going to be worthwhile to watch? Do you think that Carney stands a chance in the House? Let me know your guys' truthful, honest comments. As always, since we've reached the end of the video, if you haven't yet already, I'd like to encourage you guys to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in another video. Bye for now.